Welcome to our 59th Berlin Real Estate Talk. Today, the topic is the rental market in Berlin, what's going on. And my expert today is Mr. Ioannis Tzakris. Ioannis, you are the CEO of BLP Management, managing over 2,000 apartments in Berlin. Great you're here.
Thank you for having me.
How often have you been to this talk? Once a year?
Twice this year.
Twice this year?
Yeah, the last one was in February.
Ah, okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, so this year we did two actually. Yes, this year was very special on the rental market. And so we will cover a couple of topics. Of course, we're having now November 2024. We have a little, we will take a little resume today about the market. Ioannis is the CEO of the rental company, a management company. So Ioannis, maybe just quickly explain, you're from Greece initially?
Yeah, I come from Greece. I am the director of BLP Management GmbH since October 2020, so for 4 years now. We are currently 15 people, managing around about 2,000 units. These are individual apartments in buildings. We manage also buildings, and we also do the condominium management for landlords. And we also rent out quite a few apartments every month.
Okay, just a couple of numbers. A lot of our clients have contacted us before this webinar, and if you're watching, please ask questions. My colleague Nick, he will communicate that in the chat. In terms of the market itself, a lot of our people watching today are either tenants or people who are looking to rent out their apartment in Berlin. How is the market? How is the rental market in general as seen from your side as an expert?
The rental market, especially in Berlin, is quite good. I mean, for landlords especially. Rents are rising. The past couple of years where we had this correction on the market, on the sales market side, we experienced something like that in rentals. We didn't experience something like that. So prices are increasing. Maybe the pace, so how much they are increasing, has a bit slowed down, but still the same apartment today costs a bit more than last year.
Okay.
How much, I cannot say. It depends on many things, but...
So what's the average rent? I mean, if you look on the new build section.
If we look on the new build section, depending on the area, we experience price and the size, that's also very important. We see prices that are between 20 and 35 euros per square meter.
Okay.
In some cases, even higher than that.
Okay. From an investment side of things, what do you advise people to watch out for if they want to have a high rental income?
To find a good tenant and be fair with the price they're looking for.
Yeah.
The higher the price, the more the expectations from the tenant, of course, and that can bring a lot of trouble to the landlords in the future.
So you advise investors not to take the maximum rent out there, but just to take a little bit less.
No. To take the maximum rent.
Yeah.
For their apartment.
Yeah.
But in order to find that, they need to know exactly how much their apartment costs.
Yeah.
There are a lot of how to say that, expectations from landlords that are not cope with the reality.
Okay. I mean, there is a huge amount of apartments in Berlin on the market, which are there for short-term lets.
Yes.
Right? So maybe just for the people watching today, short-term lets are 3, 6, 9 months. Or 12 months, I think. After this is
between 3 and 12 months.
Yeah. And how is the market there? I mean, a lot of people are contacting you, I think, to ask how is the short-term rental market?
Yeah, we experience right now we're getting a lot of inquiries from landlords who own an apartment which is furnished, and they were renting it out for a short term, letting for the past few years. Now, for some reason, it is vacant, and they're asking what could be the best option for them in the future. What we advise them is to change that to the normal German unlimited, so open-end contract, right now, because there are too many apartments on the market right now, the vacancy rates for these apartments can be extremely high, even, I don't know, even up to a year. In some cases. They are quite expensive, and they're very costly for the landlords also. So on the long run, we have seen that the return on the profits is better with the open-end contract.
Okay.
It's not stress-free, but they have a lot less stress with it, a lot less trouble. The costs are a lot less also, and they can get quite good rent prices for that too.
Yeah. What's the reason behind that the costs are less and there's less stress?
First of all, is the vacancy rate. So an open-end contract for an apartment is more attractive for the tenants. So there are more people looking for such apartments, and you can get a tenant very easily and quite quickly. And then you do not have basically any high costs, because most of the costs that have to do with consumption goes directly to the tenant. The tenant pays for that. The costs for the management are lower. The cost for finding a tenant is also lower if you count that on the years. If you do the hard numbers, if you put the hard numbers down, you will see that it brings more profit.
Okay. And in terms of hassle, stress, what's going on the stress side of things?
Every time that there is a tenancy change, a landlord must wait for unforeseen costs to land on them.
Yeah.
For example, the apartment maybe needs some kind of renovation. Most of these apartments, if not all, have furniture inside that maybe need to be replaced or repaired. This costs also money. It is very hard to do the settlement bills for a tenant who stayed there for only 6 months. It's almost impossible with how the whole process is done. Whereas on the open-end contract, you do not have these kind of things.
Okay.
Everything is more straightforward, and you know exactly what to expect and how things will develop.
So that's an important message. Thank you, Ioannis, for that one. I think a lot of our investors think the other way, and what you just said is very logic, and I fully agree with what you just advised. In terms of the tenant side of things, I mean, how do the tenants actually apply for an apartment? What is your experience? What's going on there?
Everything that has a fair price tag on it is stormed by inquiries from tenants immediately. And of course, the open-end, so the apartments which are offered for an open-end contract have a lot more of inquiries rather than the other. I know that it's extremely difficult for tenants to find fair-priced apartments right now. And yeah, everyone is trying their best to get one.
Okay. What do you advise a tenant how to find an apartment? How should they prepare? What should they do?
So our advice there is prepare a good application. Make it as simple as possible so that someone who just takes it on his hand can, in 2 minutes, can understand who are you, what you're doing, and be able to understand if you will be a good tenant for them or not. No one has the time to spend hours on an application, so make it as simple as possible. Be patient. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint to find an apartment in Berlin. Be patient. Send as many applications to as many apartments or as many listings as possible, even if these listings are not quite what you're looking for, so that you have more chances to get a viewing, and there you will meet with the landlord, you will meet with the manager or the one who's renting out the apartment. You can talk with them. There are also apartments that are not online, and you can get some more information there, and maybe you can get an apartment which you didn't even know that existed on the market at the moment.
Okay. I just have a question here from one of our clients here, and they're asking about a little bit the future outlook. I mean, we have a lot of regulation in Berlin real estate, especially when it comes to tenants' rights. They are very protected. Do you think it changed there? What do you see it change? What's happening, and what is important for investors to watch out for?
We haven't seen any changes on the regulations. The regulations are still there. It's quite complicated to understand, especially for foreigners who are not very familiar with how the market works and what the regulations say. That's why we're trying to educate them, to tell them what exactly is going on, and to offer them options on how to proceed with their apartments. I don't see that this will change in the near future.
Okay. So from an investment side of things, what do you advise investors to watch out for?
Be fair. Try to give, not to expect things that are not, do not cope with the reality. Speak with your manager if you have one, or experts on the market who can advise you on what exactly is going on and how would you get the more out of your property. Rely on them and try to be fair against your tenant. You will definitely get something back.
If you watch on the new build section, is it regulated or is it completely not unregulated?
The new building section, everything that was built after October 2014 is not regulated. It's on the free market out there.
Okay.
And yeah, you can rent it out for as much money as you want.
There are a couple of questions regarding the so-called rent ceiling or the rental regulations. This only applies for buildings that have been completed before 2014, right?
Yes.
Okay. Everything that is after, I mean, you're managing nearly 2,000 apartments. So how many units do you manage before and after the 2014?
I would say around about 30% is new build.
Okay.
And everything else is in old buildings.
Okay. And these apartments are usually tenanted, and you have no vacancy rate there, or?
Not something that we can talk about right now. I mean, there is always some kind of vacancy. It depends on too many factors, but normally we manage to rent out pretty quickly the apartments. Yeah.
Okay. So even the old builds, right? So
the old builds is even easier, I would say. Yeah.
Because they're cheaper, or?
Because they're cheaper, and more people can afford them. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And on the new build section, if you rent out the apartments, you just said it's important for the investor to be realistic and fair to the tenants.
Yep.
How long do you need to rent them out, these apartments?
Anything between a week and a couple of months, depending on the price, depending on what the investor expects from it. That's why I said before, it is very crucial for the landlord, investor, to speak with their manager, to speak with people who know how the market progresses, to find the best value for their apartment. Because for this value will be rented out. If the landlord or the investor expects more, then it would be harder to get the tenant. And even if you have a tenant at some point, it will be a tricky one. The more the tenant pays, the more he expects to have back.
So there are a couple of more questions from our international clients. So here's a question. I want to invest into a small apartment in Berlin and rent it out with an option to live there at some point.
Okay.
Yeah. What is your experience? Have you had clients doing this?
Yeah, we have quite a few that they're doing that. You have, from my experience, you have two options there. You either can have an open-end contract with the tenant, where when you decide that you want to live there, you can just declare self-usage. The maximum notice period you have to give there will be 9 months if the rental agreement is older than 9 years. So if not, then the notice period will be less, and the tenant, even if he challenges it, in the end of the day, he will get out of the apartment, and then you can stay there yourself. Another option is that if you know exactly when you want to move into your apartment, then you can set up the rental agreement in that way where this will be written into the rental agreement. So the tenant will know from the beginning when he will move out, because you will be using the apartment yourself.
So you just said a very important sentence. So you need to tell the tenant before he moves in that you might want to use that after a couple of years. Yeah.
Yeah, that's if you know when you want to move in yourself, it is better to have it into the contract. The tenant will sign, so he knows that in advance, he accepts that, and this will minimize the risk that you will have to take for that.
There's a second question, very similar to the first one. I would like to know more about the law and policy about short-term renting. I mean, we are seeing listings out there where people rent out apartments for a week, a few days, up to 12 months. So what is important for people if they watch?
So, okay. A short-term letting in Germany and in Berlin especially is any letting that is more than 3 months and up to 12 months. So between 3 and 12 months. That is a short-term letting. That is allowed. And another factor that is very, very important there is that this short-term is was asked by the tenant. So the tenant wants to move in for, let's say, 6 months into an apartment. In that case, there is nothing wrong with the contract and everything is fine, and the tenant will move in and will move out after 6 months. Any letting that is less than 3 months is not a letting anymore. It is so we call it here Ferienwohnung, or just to simplify it, is an Airbnb apartment. And for that, the investor or the landlord will need a special license from the city to have that. That's a completely different market. This is something that we do not do. We do not have the capacity to do something like that. Anything else, which is for more than 12 months with an end date on the contract, is a gray area. And if you have any kind of these situations, then I need more information to be able to advise.
So what is important maybe for all these people watching this one, it's important not only to speak to us, we are like the practitioners, right? So we do stuff, and then you always need to speak to a lawyer as well, a rental lawyer in Berlin, when you have special questions. We can advise you to the right people. However, you need to double check from the commercial side, that's his job, when it comes to renting, and you need to speak from the legal side, and maybe even from the tax side, because I think if you rent out for a week, 4 days, 6 weeks, you also have VAT on top of that, and you might lose some tax advantages as well.
It's not a letting anymore. It is it's a commercial use of the apartment. That's something completely different. You need a license, you need to pay VAT, and who knows what else. I mean,
yes. So just so you're aware of it, right? So there is a big trend in Berlin, which is that tenants are renting out the apartments and subletting them, right? Do we do this? Have you seen that? What's happening there? Can you just explain?
This is a thing the past few years. The reason for that is that there open-end contracts. So we have, I mean, there are a lot of apartments right now in Berlin which are rented out. The contracts are from even before Euro came into our life. I mean, we're talking about 30, 40-year-old contracts, which are from the price perspective, they're very low price. So the tenants are paying very low rents. They will never move out of them, and they are trying to get money from it, getting money out from it by subletting rooms, or even subletting the whole apartment to someone else because they moved out of the city for some reason. and they think that they may probably come back to it, so they can stay back to their old apartment for a price which is not more realistic in Berlin.
Okay.
So this is something that is happening, especially with the older ones. And yeah, it's it's a crazy world out there with that, yeah, and it still exists.
Okay. So what can the landlord do to stop that?
So first of all, he needs to have a good rental agreement where he's allowed to have a clause there where the tenant should have the Zustimmung,
Approval?
the approval of the landlords to proceed with a subletting. That's one very important thing. So when the tenant decides to do the subletting, he needs to get the approval of the landlord. The landlord may deny that. Then again, can be a bit complicated if the tenant, for example, has financial problems and he cannot pay his rent. He can ask for this approval so that he can share the costs with someone else and not lose the apartment. In that case, the landlord may be obliged to accept that. But having the power over the apartment, so the landlord having the power over the power over the apartment, and be able to know exactly who is living any given time, is very important. Yeah, and if it comes into non-legal subletting, then it can maybe even cancel the contract.
Okay.
For that, again, you will need the advice of
A good lawyer.
a good lawyer for that. Yeah.
So then we have a question here from one of our clients, interested in getting an overview of how the market has changed over the last year and what is expected in the years to come.
Yeah, rents are increasing the past few years in a very high pace. The pace now is a bit slower, but they are still increasing, and we expect to continue like this. As long as there are not enough apartments in Berlin, it will continue to push the prices higher.
Yeah. So yeah, so maybe just a quick one on the tax one, because here's a question on tax which I would like to respond to. Understanding tax regulations in Germany. So we are not tax accountants or tax lawyers or consultants, but there are a couple of things you need to be aware of. First of all, are you based in Germany? Are you paying German income tax? And if you own a property in Germany, where you live in, you sublet maybe a room, or you sublet not the room, but you rent out the whole apartment. How many apartments do you own in Germany, etc. So please speak to one of our lawyers. We have a couple of videos, by the way, on this YouTube channel exactly on that topic. But the tax one in Germany is a big one. Please don't forget that. And it's a great opportunity for a lot of people when they have the right people for advising them, like the tax guys. Then please talk to them. That's very important, and please make use of it. Then there's another question, in process of becoming a landlord, looking for overview of the current situation in the market. I think we covered that one in depth. So the market is positive. Maybe just to summarize, we're having a strong rental market. People need accommodation. There's a huge over demand. Please don't be too greedy as a landlord. I mean, that's very important, especially when you are in the new build section. Try to be realistic. Ioannis, I think you just said a couple of big range between 18 to 35 or even more per square meter. That's significant. If you now listen to our words, the Germans love square meters, so whatever we do, we compare it to square meter. It's quite unique, but that's how we think. And of course, that's not fair, because actually you need to think of how much rent is a tenant able to pay. So if you have a small apartment, let's call it a 20 to 30 square meter apartment, 700 to 900 euros a month is a typical rent for this kind of apartment.
Yeah.
They don't care if the apartment is 24, 23 or 27. This is basically attacking the right kind of client, young people, students, people who come to Berlin, etc. And then of course you have like a 1 bed, 2 bed, etc. And then the price per square meter goes down as bigger the apartment gets.
Yeah.
And of course, location is very important. If you want to go for your high yield investment, please always look for smaller apartments, studios and 1 beds. They usually have the best returns, and usually people don't stay there forever. They leave, and you always have demand because it's affordable. People can live in there, right? That's my biggest advice. If you go for rental investors, look for the small units. And the market gives us corrects it. I mean, we just tested, for instance, one of our projects in Charlottenburg. We just did a test listing, you know. We wanted to know how much rent we would get, and we just put it on the market for 36 euros a square meter. And we then, I don't know, 10 minutes, we got like 100 people contacting us because it's below 780 euros warm rent, as we say.
Yeah.
And it's a huge market. Yeah. If you go online, you will find a lot of listings which are 1,000 to 2,000. Below the 1,000 euros rent in Berlin to have your own apartment should work.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So that's a big one. So just please speak to Ioannis and myself. From the investment side of things, I think, Nick, if there's no further questions in the chat.
We got some.
We got some? Okay.
Do you think it makes sense to install a kitchen while giving a new build apartment for unlimited rent?
Yes.
Next question. No, joking.
So that's a funny story. The first time I came in Germany, like 10 years ago, and I realized that people were renting out apartments without a kitchen. I couldn't cope up with it. I mean, it was something very far away from me. And that was the case also in Berlin 10 years ago. Right now, the apartments that do not have a kitchen or that do not come with a kitchen are almost non-existent. So yes, it makes sense. It makes the apartment more attractive and easier for the tenant to move in and set up his apartment in a day.
Maybe another topic. I'm not sure if there's in the questions. Balconies, guys. Balconies, outside space. Nick knows that when we're selling apartments. If there's no outside space, balcony is crazy important. So if you buy an apartment, if there's no balcony, it has to be much cheaper than the one with a balcony. I mean, you have apartments you're renting out.
Yeah.
If there's no balcony, flop.
It's balcony, kitchens, 2 bathrooms.
Yeah.
All these increase the attractivity of the apartment immense, and we see that in the inquiries we're getting.
Yeah. Okay, Nick.
Another one, I heard from someone that 12 months limited contract can be easily converted into unlimited contract just by sending a legal notice to the landlord. Is that true? I think you need to repeat it.
Yeah, sorry, I repeat that one because Nick still has no microphone. We have to buy a third microphone, by the way. After how many years are we talking about? Okay, we keep forgetting it. So Nick just asked a question for one of our clients. If a contract, please correct me if you're watching it. If a contract is for 12 months, the tenant can just send an official letter turning that contract, which is limited for 12 months, into an unterminated contract. And I think it's wrong, but maybe I think it has to be 12 months plus 1 day, if I'm not mistaken.
So if the initial contract was signed for 12-month period, then it remains as limited. It needs to end in the 12th month. If for any reason there was a renegotiation into these 12 months for an extension, then you will need to discuss with the landlord whether this would be better if it was converted to an unlimited one.
Also just please keep asking Ioannis on that, and then maybe one-on-one, just contact him. But in general terms, the reason why a contract terminates after 12 months has to be written in the contract. There must be a concrete reason, right? It's just not just terminates because you want to. So the tenant also has to put in a reason why he actually wants only to rent it for less than 12 months. I think that's important. Yeah. So take legal advice. Ioannis and the lawyer is going to help you, of course. He's not a lawyer, just be important. Nick? That's okay? You got it? Perfect. Ioannis, thank you for today.
Thank you for having me.
59th Berlin Real Estate Talk. You're getting used to that.
Good, yeah.
Yes.
Let's aim for the 100th.
Yeah. So, a quick one. If you have questions on Ioannis, please feel free to contact him on blacklabelpropertymanagement.com. And don't worry, this week we're going to have a big relaunch of the Black Label website world and huge mess. We're all very nervous. So maybe next week's going to be all fine, hopefully. But Ioannis is there, and please feel free to contact him. Thank you for watching tonight.